We honestly can't help watching each other, it seems. No matter where we are or what we're doing, we always seem to watch other mothers out of the corner of our eye. We compare. What do they do when their children cry? How do they react to anger and frustration? Do they feel anger and frustration? Do they swear? If they don't, do they have a problem with me swearing? Is that tumbler in their hands full of water or wine? We know we should be keeping our eyes on our own paper, but we also find ourselves low-key obsessed with what others are doing. After all, how are we supposed to know if we're doing it right? This was a conversation my friend, Lacey, and I had some time ago, and it was a rather enlightening conversation. One that I don't think we have enough. And it all starts with a question. Do we judge one another so constantly because we don't know ourselves? I'm Ariana Bradford, and this is the NYAM Project podcast. Hey everyone, what's up? This is Ariana again with the NYAM podcast, and you're listening to episode 2, Running the Marathon. So, Lacey and I have been friends for a number of years, and I admire a lot about her. She's a regular mother, just like us, and yet she's extraordinary in a number of ways. I may be a little biased, but I can say with great confidence that she's a person with a strong sense of self, both professionally and maternally. And I mean, she has to be, considering all that she's got going on.
I have a 5-year-old. I also work full-time, sometimes more than full-time, it seems like. And I'm currently in the last stages of my doctorate program. I'll be getting a clinical doctorate in occupational therapy. And I'm currently faculty at the University of St. Augustine for health sciences in their occupational therapy program. So, yeah, that's kind of, I guess, me in a nutshell.
Usually, when we hear this kind of thing, we assume, right? We assume that this person is finishing everything perfectly all the time, and we want to know their secret. What is their secret, we ask? How do they finish it all? Well, I've got news for you, and depending on what you were looking for, you may not like it. The secret is, she doesn't.
It's one of those things where I feel like I have just gotten to the point where I'm okay, and I've had to learn to be okay with not being the very best at everything every single day. You know, one day might be like my mom day, and another day might be my student day, and another day might be my work day, and I'm not going to do everything really well every single day. And, but on the days, especially with my son, on the days that I have time and I kind of want that to be my mom day, I really try, to step up, and do that. I do find that it's actually easier for me to be into the student and work roles, just because those tend to be kind of more comfortable because I've just done them for so much longer. And so I really have to make sure that I don't let those consume me and my life. So I think balance, I look at it in terms of more on a longer term trajectory than every single day. Every single day, not everything gets the same amount of attention. And I kind of have to be okay with that in order to stay sane.
Right. Like you can't do everything all the time, even though you feel like you have to. It's nice to realize that you don't.
Right, exactly. Like, yeah, and it's not realistic to. And I think that that's something that, the modern mom or modern woman is really, I think we're starting to get away from that a little bit, but I feel like that's a big pressure. You have to be everything all the time. And I don't really, again, for my own sanity and anxieties, I can't allow myself to think that. Otherwise, I will just implode. It's all a challenge. I think. It's hard to pick just one thing. But no, I mean, I think not allowing, the student and work role to kind of to take over sometimes and to really be conscientious of that. But then once I got into the mom role, not letting that take over the rest of my life because, I have to put food on the table, right? Um, and so, just finding how to make that work. And honestly, it doesn't work all the time either, but at least learning to be okay with that. I'm just going to be okay some days. I'm not going to be stellar at everything every day because I want to be the best and I want to do the best and I want to do all these things. So learning that it's okay to like just be okay too.
And when you say it's okay to just be okay, do you mean just in like daily stuff, or do you mean also sometimes
Oh,
emotionally?
both. Yeah, I mean, I think it definitely, there's kind of the double entendre there for sure about, it's okay to just be okay in terms of like just be mediocre, but then it's okay, to just be okay in the emotional sense. And it's okay to not be okay also in the emotional sense. And really, in the sort of mediocre sense too. But that right, you don't have to be up all the time. You don't have to be the best worker all the time. You don't have to be the best student all the time. You don't have to be the best mother all of the time. Of course, you strive for those things, but you're not always, it's unreasonable to think that you are going to hit that mark every single day, and it just causes stress and anxiety to think that you are. And that is something that I've had to learn because, I definitely don't want to put my anxieties on my son. And I want him to grow up being confident. I want him to grow up, understanding it's okay to be just okay, or even not okay sometimes. And, it's okay to be great too. Um, but that life has an ebb and flow to it, and it's about learning to catch the waves when they come and learn how to fight to just get a breath of air when that happens too, that it doesn't inform your self-worth if you're in a more difficult time.
So I'm going to use the age old marathon metaphor here. Sorry. It's just really, really apropos in this situation. That balance that Lacey was talking about is like making the very conscious effort to keep your breathing measured. It's making sure you breathe in on step 1 and breathe out on step 4. Or something like that. I don't know. I don't run. The point is, there's always someone, though, who feels out of breath. And usually, there's several someones who feel out of breath. Some of these breathless people feel that the easiest way to gain ground isn't to work on their own breathing, but to find something wrong with the breathing of others. Take, for example, the working mom versus stay-at-home mom debate. Probably one of the most pointless arguments I've ever come across, but whatever, it's a thing. And though Lacey herself hasn't dealt with too many unwanted comments regarding her choice to work, she knows people who have. And her theory of why was one I hadn't thought of before. But it rings surprisingly true.
And I think this is true for any mom, that decides to either stay home or work, or maybe they work and that's not their decision, but they have to put food on the table. I think that a lot of those conversations come from a place of wanting to feel more secure in your personal decision, about if you chose to stay home or work or not. I think it's rare that people just, oh, I have this idea and therefore everyone should do it. Don't get me wrong, there's definitely people out there like that. I've run into a few of them, but I think for the most part, people are like, this was the decision I made, like in this example, to stay home. So, in order to feel more validated in that decision for myself, I I feel like other people need to see how great of a decision I made for myself, you know. And I know this is going a little bit off on a tangent from your, kind of from your question, but I think it's important that we understand that as moms, that when someone says something to you about, oh, work, gosh, I bet you miss your, son, or you stay at home and gosh, I bet you wish you could get out of the house, without a child. Right. Yeah, you miss people and adult interaction, right? I think that that just comes from a place, I don't want to call it insecurity because that's not what it is, but it's a seeking of validation for this struggle that I think as moms we really face of like stay home or not. And like I said, some people don't have a choice. The choice is made for them for their life circumstances, whether it's go to work because I have to make a paycheck to provide for my family, or what a lot of people face now is it costs more for me to send my kids to daycare if I work. I'm breaking even at best, so what's the better choice here? So sometimes there's that decision is kind of made for these people, but the bottom line is that everyone just wants to feel like their position and their decision, especially with something so difficult, is justified. And I think it's important that we recognize that in ourselves, and then we can start to have better conversations with each other, because then we can come to the table, and instead of seeking that validation, I think if we had more of that awareness of our position ourselves, then it wouldn't feel as divisive as it feels sometimes.
Right. It's definitely a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation, I think, from people who are sitting on the outside of it. Like they kind of, so people are afraid that they are going to be judged for whatever decision they made. So, in getting that agreement from you that, yeah, I wish I was in your situation, I wish I was like you, they're admitting that whatever decision the other person made isn't the incorrect one. Like that's a very good outlook. I've never actually thought of it that way, but that's so true.
Right, right.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, well, and I feel like, just as an aside, I feel like I've gained this perspective not just from this is kind of funny, not just from parenting, but also for all of the listeners that cannot see. I have very curly, gorgeous, amazing hair. I'm not afraid to say
She does. It's true.
it's true. It's true.
So true.
But you know, but it's the same thing with hair that women do to each other. Oh my gosh, I bet you hated your hair growing up. Oh, it must take so long to do. And it's like, why are we doing this to each other? Like, I don't understand. Why do we have to? I just, sorry, that's a tangent, but it just reminds me of things like that where, you know, why is there this need, as a society, to say things like, oh, I bet you wish you had straight hair because you have curly hair. I bet you wish because you work that you could stay home. Like, why do we do that to people? You know,
I feel like at least in your hair situation, but I do think probably with the working versus staying home thing too. I think that sometimes that's also someone's way of dirtying something that they want to make it
feel
sound,
about it. Yeah.
yeah, to sound less attractive to them. If they wish that they could stay home with their children, which has its own issues. They'll say, wow, I bet you really wish that you could work in an office, because it makes you feel better to say, well, that person's miserable, so obviously I am in a better situation than they are. You see that a lot with celebrities too. Anytime that someone sees a celebrity that looks like they're having a great time, they'll be like, well, I guarantee you that they're miserable. And it's like, why do they have to be miserable? Maybe, I mean, they're on a yacht. Maybe they're thrilled.
Yeah.
Who cares?
Yeah, it's hard to cry on a yacht. I mean,
have you tried crying on a yacht? It's impossible.
I've not been on a yacht, so that's the way I am trying to cry on a yacht. But I'm pretty sure if I were on a yacht, it would be difficult, because
I would be very happy on a yacht.
Yeah, I'm imagining that like yachts have this like special sonar technology that it's got all of the dolphins, and you know, like there's just something, I'm not sure what makes it so magical, but there's
promised smile technology.
Right, yeah.
There's something we poorer people would not 100% ever understand. Yeah.
Oh, and I'm sure you can cry on a yacht. Like I'm sure Yeezy has had his tears.
Yeezy and his tears, right, that probably turned to champagne somehow.
Something like that, right? Exactly. I agree. I do think that it's a sort of self-validating, kind of this thing. I destroy that for people, and I enjoy it, really. I've always loved my hair, and it's not that difficult to deal with, and it's just amazing, and that's okay. Or even with, going to work, I love my son, but I also love that I work. I do. And in a perfect world, if I were married to a billionaire husband and could stay home and take Victor around the world with me and show him all different cultures and, do that, like, would I love to do that? Oh, yes, most definitely. But, but for me, I really do. And just for me, it's not for everyone, I'm not trying to say that, but for me, I really feel like this is a good place for my life and my personality and who I am, as a person and as a mother, is to be working.
The sad thing is, be it for curly hair or staying home with your children or for whatever other reason, I'm sure many of us out there know how pressured we can feel to play ourselves down for others. To keep with that marathon metaphor, we feel like we have to slow ourselves down so that others don't get angry that we're supposedly ahead. But, and I put this as delicately as I possibly can, that's dumb. We don't have to do that. And Lacey realized this a bit quicker than I did, but better late than never, right?
There was a time in my life where I would just go along with the suppositions that people would make. Oh, you must have hated your hair. Oh, yeah, it gets a little bit, you should see it in the morning, or, you know what I mean, make some sort of snide, self-deprecating comment about it just to appease this other person. And I did that in the early years, with Victor too. I didn't get it a lot, but if comments were made like, oh, I bet you wish you could stay home, I'd go along with it. And I just got to the point in all aspects of my life, hair, child, etc., that I really decided, no, I want to speak my truth, even if it doesn't go along with what I think might make someone feel comfortable. I don't want to do it in a mean or divisive way. I don't want to create any barriers or be rude about it, but there's no reason why I should have to go along with something that I don't agree with.
Motherhood, as personal as it is, should absolutely be about your truth and the rest of your family's truth. And if I haven't convinced you of this enough, maybe this advice will.
Don't listen to any advice. don't. No, I'm kidding. I mean, half kidding, right? It's like, because you have to take everything that's said with a grain of salt. And I think that's true for motherhood or anything else, is that, just because someone tells you something, that one, doesn't make it true, but two, doesn't make it true for you. It may be true for this other person, and they may be speaking from a place of being very genuine, but that doesn't mean that it's gonna necessarily work for you, for your life circumstance, for things like that. So, you know, take things with a grain of salt and be okay with who you are, as a mother. Really sit down and be like, who do I want to be as a mother, and what's realistic for me, to be as a mother? Because I would love, there's many things that I would love to do as a mother, but just aren't realistic. And you have to find what that balance is for you. And, it doesn't have to be like, oh, in order to be a good mother, I have to do X, Y, and Z. I think if you can keep your sort of desired outcomes to things that are broader and are really focused on the behaviors and the environment and the kind of nurturing types of things that you want to leave with your children, then life can get in the way and you don't have to feel so bad. Now, does that mean that you don't have, and this is me getting into my like OT therapist mode, because I start thinking goals and all of that, but does that mean that you don't have like short-term goals of, I'd like to read to my kids, or I'd like to do these things? Sure. Of course. Like, I think that setting those like little milestones and goals for yourself in anything in life are really helpful. But I think the place that you hold value for yourself should not be in things that can get messed up by life. There are plenty of times where I have every intention of reading that book, or of, going to the park more often than we do, or whatever, but it just doesn't happen because life gets in the way, or he gets fussy, or is too tired, or whatever the case may be. So I think holding your value as a mother in those bigger picture items can help ease some of those like parenting and motherhood anxieties.
I want to talk about that marathon once more, if you'll indulge me. I want you to pretend that you're puffing towards the finish line. It's farther away than you'd like, but it's within sight. There are many others around you in the same place in life as you, trying to get to that finish line as well. And you have two ways that you can handle this. You can focus on your breathing, the way you pump your arms. You can focus on the approach of that finish line and think of how great it's going to feel to reach that goal. Or you can turn your head and watch the steps of others. You can stress about people who seem to be passing you and the ease with which these people are moving. You can worry yourself about the progress of others who are only trying to reach the exact same goal, until you lose track of your own steps and you trip and you fall. The choice is up to you, but I'm pretty certain I know which one you'd rather choose. Learn from one another. Ask questions. Observe. But don't take on anyone else's story as your own. We're all trying to do our best, and keeping up with your own record is all that matters. The NYAM Project podcast is written and produced by me, Ariana Bradford. You can find out more about us at wearenyam.com or on Facebook and Instagram under the NYAM Project. Thank you very much to Lacey for giving us some of her time for today's episode, and I hope we'll see you next time.